feel like somebody stuck a big club up my ass, and it hurts. We've got to figure out a way to get it out of there.
In 1990, Iranian filmmaker, which I use this term lightly, Amir Shahrivan begins production on his follow-up film to his previous installments, Hollywood Cop and Killing American Style. The film starred B-movie greats Robert Z'Dar and Gerald Okamura. Also, newcomers Mark Fraser and Matt Hannon in the titular role of Joe Marshall, the Samurai Cop. The plot, I guess, centers around a renegade Japanese gang named Katana that wants to take control of the cocaine trade in Los Angeles. To combat this eastern threat, the LAPD bring in Joe Marshall, who has been trained by ninja masters and also speaks fluent Japanese.
They call him Samurai. He speaks fluent Japanese.
Are you Fujiyama?
What does katana mean?
It means Japanese sword.
Obviously, a production of this caliber went through major issues. Shahrivan couldn't afford lighting, so the entire film is shot in the daylight. Actors wore their own clothes and had to drive their own cars to the movie. Shahrivan had to dub voices months after production due to most of the film being shot without sound, which led to some hilarious mismatched voice performances.
In no way we go under Fujiyama's flag.
Are you expecting anybody?
No.
That's a warning bell.
Oh yeah?
Most of the film was shot with single takes, which explains why we get this prize gem of a monologue.
I'm telling these son of a bitches that we respect the Japanese of this country, who are honest businessmen. And yeah, this is the land of opportunity for legitimate business, not for death merchants who distribute drugs to our children through schools and on the streets. Now I'm telling these motherfuckers that if they continue killing our children to make their precious millions that they deposit in their secret Swiss bank accounts. Counselor, before your lawsuit even gets off the court clerk's desk, I'll have their stinking bodies in garbage bags and ship them back to Japan for fertilizer.
And of course, one of my favorite blunders is when Shahrivan told actor Matt Hannon that principal photography had wrapped. So the actor had his hair cut short for another gig, only to be contacted by Amir, letting him know that they had additional scenes to shoot. Upon seeing Hannon's freshly cropped hair, Shahrivan accused the actor of attempting to ruin his movie. The director took Hannon wig shopping, and much to the actor's dismay, he was forced to wear what could be best described as a 1980s female porn star wig. What Hannon initially thought was just a few additional scenes turned into almost half the movie wearing this embarrassing headpiece. Samurai Cop also included some unforgettable minor characters, like the angry police chief.
I feel like somebody stuck a big club up my ass, and it hurts. We've got to figure out a way to get it out of there. You son of a bitch! Come back here, you motherfucker!
And of course, who can forget the waiter?
Where's her father?
Bang!
Killed? Who shot him?
He!
Who?
Him!
Who's him?
Himself!
Oh, he committed suicide.
Yes!
This Lethal Weapon ripoff never had a theatrical release, but did get small VHS distribution. There was even a legend that a copy of Samurai Cop was found in an actual castle dungeon, probably used as some sort of cruel and unusual torture method. This movie was almost completely forgotten until a YouTube video titled The Horny Nurse started circulating, and BAM! Samurai Cop has resurfaced as one of the most beloved and ridiculous cult movies from the 1990s. So of course, it was this very film that inspired me to build a commander deck that personifies this national treasure. Kresh the Bloodbraided. Holy crap balls! Does Kresh and Joe Marshall look similar? And as an added bonus, they thematically work as well. The flavor text even references his glorious hair. Kresh the Bloodbraided is a Jun commander for 2 BRG. He is a 3/3 human warrior that whenever another creature dies, you put X +1/+1 counters on Kresh, where X equals that creature's power. The theme of this deck is basically death. Death to your opponent's creatures with the inclusion of copious amounts of removal spells, and death of our own creatures. Everything is a protein shake for Kresh. This deck includes some cameos from some other decks reviewed on this channel, but has its own unique flair and style. And also, you know the drill by now, this is not EDH Rec. This is the list I personally play with. Traveling over from the Viral's the Scarstripe deck, Phyrexian Dreadnought again is one of the most powerful cards in this list. Giving Kresh 12 +1/+1 counters for 1 mana is exactly what we want to be doing. Viscera is a card advantage sack outlet that keeps our creatures dying to pump up our general. Winding Constrictor gives Kresh a bonus counter by just hanging around. Fleshbag Marauder and Merciless Executioner do double duty in this deck. Removal spells and donating counters is ridiculously powerful for 3 mana. Not to mention how amazing these cards are when we can recur them. Force of Savagery basically is a sorcery that reads put 8 +1/+1 counters on Kresh for 3 mana. Rayhan Lass of Abzan is the best life insurance policy of all time. Any creatures with +1/+1 counters on it get to be an organ donor when they die or are placed in the command zone. Viral's crashes the party to give all your creatures in your graveyard scavenge, to essentially double dip on your creature's power. He also is a resilient sack outlet. Bonto the Glorified is a great support piece, doubling as a sack outlet and card advantage engine. Yahini reaps the benefits to killing our opponent's creatures and sacrificing our own. Sprouting Thrynax is a 3/3 for 3 that explodes into 3 1/1 creatures when it dies. A potential 6 counters for Kresh. The Old Man is included to ramp us and donate blood. Corpsejack Menace is stupid here. Doubling up counters for Kresh, you can live in magical Christmas land when you have Kresh on the battlefield with Corpsejack, and, play something like, Phyrexian Dreadnought, netting 24 counters so you can start one-shot swinging your opponents to death? Gerard Golgari Lichlord usually is fairly large with all the creatures dying on our side of the board. Also, to provide direct damage to our opponent for sacrificing our giant creatures. Shattergang Brothers is basically a Fleshbag Marauder on a stick that is repeatable. Nylea and Brawn help get Kresh's damage through any chump blockers to our opponent's face hole with trample damage. Heart Piercer Manticore allows us to fling one of our creatures at our opponents, netting us more counters and direct damage. Also doesn't suck that you can bomb the cat to do it again. Smothering Abomination is a reasonable flying body while being a sack outlet and card advantage engine. Wyatora Negoro Queen is the cat dragon Kresh didn't know he wanted, but now can't live without. Every time this flying kitty scratches our opponent's face, they have to sack a creature, and we get a 3/3 flying cat. Seems okay. Sekurar Deathkeeper knows how to keep this party going all night. When one of our creatures kick the bucket, the Orc Shaman sends in one of his own 3/1 entourage to take their place. When the Scorpion God heard that Viral's was in this joint, he crashed the party as well. This creature is always the last creature standing by jumping back into our hand to play again over and over again. Sidisi is the sacrificial demonic tutor that is perfect for this deck. Mycolith is a great secondary target for all the counters flying around. If this fungus survives, it births its own army. Shriekmaw is targeted removal and counter donation. Deathbringer Thoktar is more than a creature with just a silly name. It does its best Kresh impression by growing larger whenever another creature dies. As an added benefit, it can Triskelion its counters and shoot other creatures and opponents. Spite Bellows is essentially the second copy of Shriekmaw, although its counter donation is twice as much. Harvester of Souls allows us to draw fists full of cards for the deck just by running the way it's supposed to. Stalking Vengeance is one of the best EDH cards under a buck. Every time one of our creatures dies, it gets one last violent death shriek to hurt our opponents equal to that creature's power. Now, we go over the enchantments and auras, aka more supplements for our meathead commander. Rancor to push through. Phyrexian Reclamation, because every deck using black needs to run this card, or you're doing it wrong. Goblin Bombardment is a great OG sack outlet. Animate Dead. You will always have an amazing target for this card with all the death and mayhem that this deck provides. Phyrexian Arena. Again, best black card advantage. From Beyond nets us a creature that we can sacrifice for counters while ramping us at the same time. Dictate of Erebos to double up on the death. This deck is starting to feel like a Slayer album. Rite of the Raging Storm is freaking bonkers in this build. Every turn a player gets a ball lightning that can attack you or a planeswalker you control. This thing dies every turn. That's 5 free +1/+1 counters for Kresh. Oh my god! Kicking off the non-permanent spells is the mass artifact removal spell Vandal Blast. Fling to provide the coup de grace on our opponent by throwing our giant commander at our opponents. And no, commander damage is not granted from this. Costly Plunder does quite a bit for 2 mana in this deck. Grisly Salvage lets us dig for exactly what we need. Terminate, Putrefy, and Hero's Downfall are a nice unholy trinity of removal. Soulsfire is a fling that we don't have to kill our own creature to deal a buttload of damage. Doesn't hurt that this is an instant either. Skyshroud Claim can search for 2 of our shock lands. Chandra's Ignition is Soulsfire on Walter White's Blue Meth. Hooray for one-sided Wraths! Overwhelming Stampede is the overend specifically made for Kresh. Flesh and Blood scavenges a creature and soulfires our opponents. Options! Garrick's Wake is a fantastic, albeit expensive, one-sided wrath that also kills planeswalkers. Let's talk artifacts. Soul Ring, blah blah blah. Skull Clamp to draw all the cards. All the cards! Lightning Greaves is risky due to the Shroud until Kresh is big and beefy. Swiftfoot Boots is even better. Mage Slayer is to Kresh as the Katana is to Samurai Cop. So much damage. Darksteel Plate to ensure that Kresh remains alive and awesome. Mimic Vat is criminally underplayed in Commander and is absolutely broken here. Vatting a Fleshbag Marauder or a Shriekmaw or even our Dreadnought means that we can keep these triggers popping over and over and over. Darksteel Ingot and Ashnod's Altar for some more ramp. Birthing Pod is just what the doctor ordered to surgically pinpoint what creatures we want next. Cauldron of Souls to double up our death triggers, also allows us to draw a ton of cards if the Scorpion God is on the battlefield. Finally, the most uninteresting part of every deck tech, the lands. Savage Lands. Daragraz's Caldera. Command Tower, Bloodstained Mire, Wooded Foothills, Windswept Heath, Arid Mesa, Polluted Delta, Stomping Ground, Overgrown Tomb, Blood Crypt, Rootbound Crag, Woodland Cemetery, Dragonskull Summit, Blooming Marsh, Blackcleave Cliffs, Llanowar Wastes, Sulphurous Springs, Gruul Turf, Golgari Rot Farm, Rakdos Carnarium, Hissing Quagmire, Temple of Malady, Cinderglade, Canyon Slough, Grim Backwoods, the best land in the deck in Kessig Wolf Run, and its little brother, Skarg the Rage Pits, Rogue's Passage, High Market, Mirren the Moaning Well, Bajuka Bog, Temple of the False God, Ghost Quarter, 2 Swamps, 1 Forest, 1 Mountain. That's my Kresh the Bloodbraided deck inspired by Samurai Cop. Go do yourself a favor and check this awesomely terrible movie out. And do me a favor by sharing this video, like it, and commenting. Go ahead and subscribe to the They Said We Said channel to catch all the thematically themed MTG decks and much, much more. You can find me on the social medias like Twitter at OrzovDunn, on Facebook and Instagram as John Dunn, or also on the MTG Amino and the Multiverse Amino mobile apps. So until next time, I'll see you at the table.
What? No!